From being benched in college to leading the Eagles to win the Super Bowl, this is the story of how Jalen Hurts was underrated in the NFL draft and how the setback only fueled his determination to silence critics and prove everyone wrong. Jalen Hurts wasn't just born to play football, he was practically built for it. Born on August 7, 1998 in Channelview, Texas, Jalen grew up surrounded by the game. His father, Jalen Hurts, was a coach, so football wasn't just a sport in the Hurts household, it was a way of life. At Channelview High School, Jalen quickly proved he was something special.
I've never doubted myself. I'm confident, not cocky.
He wasn't just good, he was unstoppable. As a senior, he threw for over 2,000 yards, ran for over 1,000, and racked up 51 touchdowns. That kind of dominance earned him the District 21 6A MVP title and made him one of the top dual-threat quarterbacks in his class. But Jalen wasn't just about football. He was amazing in the weight room, too. Literally. While most high schoolers were struggling to lift their backpacks, Jalen was out here squatting 500 pounds. His strength helped him become a regional finalist in powerlifting, proving he wasn't just fast, he was as strong as a tank. So where did all this drive come from? Look no further than his family. His dad, Avarian Sr., wasn't just his coach, he was his mentor, always preaching the importance of family, hard work, and never backing down. And then there was his older brother, Avarian Jr., Jalen's biggest inspiration. If there was one person Jalen wanted to be like on the field, it was him. Coming out of high school, Jalen Hurts had big-time schools lining up for him. Texas A&M wanted him bad. But instead of staying home in Texas, Jalen made a bold move. He chose Alabama. Most freshmen spend their first year riding the bench, but not Jalen. He didn't just start at quarterback, he made history doing it. In his very first game as Alabama's QB, he became the first true freshman to start for the Tide since Vince Sutton 34 years earlier. And from there, he took off like a rocket. In 15 games, Jalen passed for 2,780 yards and 23 touchdowns, while also rushing for 954 yards and 13 more TDs. He was a one-man wrecking crew, breaking Alabama's single-season rushing record for a QB by more than 150 yards. And the records didn't just stop there. He was the first Alabama QB to pass for 300-plus yards and rush for 100-plus yards in a single game. And when it comes to awards, he had those too. He won the SEC Player of the Year, Manning Award finalist, and All-American recognitions. Jalen was rewriting the rulebook on what a freshman quarterback could do, but even legends have setbacks. Jalen had taken Alabama all the way to the national championship game against Clemson, finishing with just 13 completions on 31 attempts and one of his lowest passer ratings of the season. Threat QB, his passing still needed work. And over the next few years, that weakness would lead to both his toughest moments and his greatest comeback. Jalen Hurts entered the 2017 season with one goal: redemption. After falling just short of a national championship the year before, he was back as Alabama's leader, ready to prove himself. And he did just that, dominating the regular season once again. This time, he wasn't just good, he was better. He threw for over 2,000 yards and was way more efficient, finishing with a 150.2 passer rating, 11 points higher than his freshman year. And if that wasn't enough, he barely threw any interceptions, putting up a ridiculous 17-to-1 touchdown-interception ratio. Don't forget his legs. Jalen still racked up 800-plus rushing yards and 8 touchdowns. With Jalen at the helm, Alabama went 11-1 in the regular season and punched their ticket to the college football playoffs. First up was a rematch against Clemson. Jalen and the Tide got the last laugh, winning 24-6 and setting up another shot at the national championship. This was it, Jalen's moment to shine, a second chance at the title. But instead of redemption, the worst moment of his career was waiting for him. By halftime, Alabama was getting shut out, down 13-0 to Georgia. The offense was stuck in the mud, and Jalen just couldn't get anything going. He had only completed 3 of 8 passes for 21 yards, nowhere near enough to keep Alabama in the game. Then Nick Saban made a shocking move. He benched Jalen. In came freshman backup Tua Tagovailoa, a guy who'd barely played all season. The biggest game of the year, and Saban was rolling the dice. And just like that, everything changed. Tua lit up Georgia's defense, leading one of the most incredible comebacks in college football history. The game went to overtime, and Tua sealed the deal with a legendary game-winning touchdown pass.
Touchdown! Alabama wins!
Alabama won the national championship 26-23. Jalen had to watch from the sideline as someone else finished what he started. It was a brutal moment, but instead of sulking, Jalen stood tall. He cheered for his team, celebrated the win, and later said, "I'm a competitor, and I would have loved to bring the team back like I'd done many times before, but it happened the way it did, and we were national champions at the end of it. Put emotions to the side. I'm not a robot, but you grow out of yourself and into the team." Despite the heartbreak, Jalen Hurts cheered for his team, smiled through interviews, and acted like everything was fine. But deep down, he knew the truth. Getting benched might be the beginning of the end for him at Alabama. He'd spent years working, sacrificing, and fighting for his dream, and now, in one game, it felt like it was all slipping away. He didn't understand what he had done wrong. Getting his spot back, Jalen knew he was in for a rude awakening. Tua Tagovailoa wasn't just a one-hit wonder, he was the real deal. When the dust settled, Jalen had lost the battle for the starting job. Most players in that situation would have packed their bags and transferred immediately, but not Jalen. He stayed. Even as a backup, he was one of the first people celebrating on the sideline after every touchdown. He brought energy, leadership, and positivity even when he wasn't on the field. He didn't complain, didn't sulk, he just kept working, and everyone noticed. But deep down, Jalen knew he wasn't done. He kept telling his teammates the same thing, and that time finally came. It was the SEC championship, and Alabama was in trouble. Georgia was up by 7 in the fourth quarter, and Tua had gone down with an injury. Suddenly, Jalen was brought to the spotlight. This time, he wasn't the one getting pulled from the game, he was the one being called in to save it. With the pressure at its highest, Jalen delivered. He threw for 82 yards and a touchdown. He ran for another. He led Alabama all the way back, sealing the win and sending the Crimson Tide to the college football playoff. It was the moment he'd been waiting for, the moment he had worked for, the moment he had dreamed of. He was redeemed. Alabama would eventually lose the national championship to Clemson, but Jalen had already won his personal battle. He had proven himself, and now it was time to take the next step. If Jalen Hurts wanted a real shot at being a starting quarterback again, staying at Alabama wasn't an option. He had to transfer. Schools lined up to recruit him, but one stood out above the rest. Even Nick Saban, his former coach, gave him the same advice. Go to Oklahoma. It was the perfect fit. But it also came with enormous pressure. Jalen had one season to prove himself. One season to show the NFL he was ready. One season to silence the doubters. And Oklahoma gave him the perfect stage. Jalen wasn't just stepping onto any team. Oklahoma just produced back-to-back Heisman winning quarterbacks, Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray. Expectations were sky high. Could Jalen live up to the standard? The answer came fast, and it was loud. In 2019, Jalen had his best college season by far. He threw for over 1,000 more yards than any previous season. He posted a career-high 32 touchdown passes and led the Big 12 with a 69.7% completion rate, and his legs were still deadly. He rushed for 1,200 yards and 18 touchdowns, finishing just behind Joe Burrow in total touchdowns that year. The Sooners rode his stellar play to an 11-1 record and a Big 12 championship win over Baylor. Oklahoma would eventually fall to LSU in the Peach Bowl, but by then the message was clear. Jalen Hurts was back. He even finished second in Heisman voting, right behind Burrow. Mission accomplished. Now it was time for the NFL. After his incredible 2019 season, Jalen Hurts had definitely caught the NFL's attention. He wasn't seen as the top quarterback of the draft class, but there was no denying his potential. His improvement as a passer and his crazy athleticism had scouts talking, but there were still big questions. Could Hurts' progress be credited to the Oklahoma system? Could he be a true passer in the NFL? And most importantly, could his style of play work at the next level? Even though Hurts was a better passer than before, he was still considered a bit raw compared to the other top quarterbacks. But what set him apart was his amazing ability to make plays with his legs. As draft day approached, nobody knew exactly where Hurts was go. He had a great Senior Bowl and Combine, which only helped his stock rise. Teams were impressed not only with his physical skills, but also his character, which made him even more attractive to NFL teams. As draft weekend finally came, everyone was still guessing where Hurts would land, but only one person really knew what was coming, and that was Howie Roseman. During the draft day, Joe Burrow was the first overall pick by the Cincinnati Bengals. The man that Jalen Hurts was benched for, Tua Tagovailoa, was drafted just a few picks later. Oregon quarterback Justin Herbert was drafted with the very next pick to be the successor to Phillip Rivers. Toward the end of the first round, the Packers surprisingly drafted Jordan Love. 4 quarterbacks were taken in the first round, and Jalen Hurts wasn't one of them. But on day 2, he got the call. The Philadelphia Eagles selected Jalen Hurts as quarterback for Oklahoma. Jalen Hurts was drafted as the 53rd overall pick by the Philadelphia Eagles. Fans and media couldn't understand it. The Eagles had just given their quarterback Carson Wentz a huge contract, so why draft a quarterback in the second round? The move was widely criticized, but when asked why, Eagles GM Howie Roseman gave a now famous answer. We want to be a quarterback factory. In 2020, the Eagles started Carson Wentz as their quarterback, but he was struggling. In Week 13 of that season, Wentz's poor performance led to head coach Doug Peterson making the bold decision to bench him and let Hurts take over for the rest of the year. Hurts showed flashes of brilliance in his rookie season. In just 4 games, he threw 6 touchdowns and rushed for 3 more. While he didn't get the win every time, the talent was undeniable. At the end of the 2020 season, Doug Peterson was let go as head coach, and Nick Sirianni was hired to take over. In 2021, the Eagles decided to move on from Wentz and make Hurts the full-time starter. He led the team to the playoffs, but fell short against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the wild-card round.
Pass is to Devontae Smith.
Despite rushing for 10 touchdowns, Hurts still had some struggles with his passing, throwing 16 touchdowns but also 9 interceptions. Fans and analysts debated whether he should even remain the starter, but Sirianni believed in Hurts, sticking with him as the future of the team. Even though Hurts and the Eagles had a tough playoff loss to Tom Brady and the Bucs, it was clear that Hurts was the guy to lead the team moving forward. It was also clear that the team needed to improve. So general manager Howie Roseman made a big move. He traded the Eagles' 18th overall pick to the Tennessee Titans for A.J. Brown, a star receiver and one of Hurts' good friends. With A.J. now alongside Devonta Smith, a 2021 first-round pick, the Eagles' receiving ends were looking stronger than ever. In 2022, something amazing happened between Hurts and A.J. Brown. They connected right away, and the Eagles were unstoppable. They finished the season with an incredible 14-3 record. Hurts threw for over 3,700 yards and 22 touchdowns, both career highs, and rushed for over 700 yards, scoring another 13 touchdowns. Thanks to his amazing performance, Hurts made the Pro Bowl, earned a second-team All-Pro spot, and introduced the now famous tush push play. So, what's the tush push? It's when Hurts sneaks the ball forward on a QB run with All-Pro center Jason Kelce smashing through defenders in front of him and his teammates pushing from behind. The Eagles were amazing at it, converting first downs a crazy 93% of the time. This play helped them dominate during the regular season and carried them through the playoffs. In the divisional round, they crushed the rival New York Giants, winning 38-7. Then in the NFC Championship, they rolled over the 49ers 31-7. Securing a spot in the Super Bowl for the first time since their 2017-2018 victory. Hurts was solid in the first 2 playoff games, but in the Super Bowl, he was nothing short of spectacular. The Eagles jumped out to a 24-14 lead at halftime. Hurts started strong with a touchdown on the tush push, then added a 45-yard touchdown pass to A.J. Brown.
It's on a quarterback draw. Nowhere to go. The ball is loose.
After the Chiefs scored a fumble recovery touchdown, Hurts answered with another touchdown to give Philly a 21-14 lead, followed by a field goal before halftime. In the second half, though, the Chiefs made a comeback. They scored 2 quick touchdowns, taking a 28-27 lead. When Philly couldn't score on their last drive, the Chiefs added another touchdown, going up by 8 with just 9 minutes left in the game. But Hurts wasn't done. He led the Eagles on a 75-yard drive, finishing with his 3rd rushing touchdown of the game, and then converted a 2-point play to tie the game at 35. The Chiefs, with their experience from 2 Super Bowls and a Lombardi Trophy, weren't going down without a fight. They answered the Eagles' comeback with a 12-play, 66-yard drive, finishing with a Harrison Butker field goal that left only 8 seconds on the clock. Hurts tried one last Hail Mary play, but it fell short. The Eagles' Super Bowl dream slipped away, and the Chiefs won their second championship with Mahomes leading the way. After a tough Super Bowl loss, teams often had trouble bouncing back, but not the Eagles. Despite losing both of their coordinators, Coach Sirianni brought in new faces to replace them: Brian Johnson on offense and Sean Desai on defense. Philly kept rolling, winning their first 5 games and starting the season 10-1 after a hiccup against the Jets in Week 6. But then, things started to fall apart. The Eagles hit a rough patch, losing 6 of their last 7 games. Rumors of locker room issues and questions about Coach Sirianni swirled around the team. In the wild card round, they faced the Bucs, led by Baker Mayfield, and got crushed 32-9. Even though Hurts played well, his quarterback rating was over 100. The Eagles couldn't get anything going on the ground, rushing for just 42 yards on 15 carries. Even though Hurts set career highs for passing yards and touchdowns, his 15 interceptions and the Eagles' weak running game hurt their chances. It was clear to general manager Howie Roseman that changes were needed. In 2024, he made a huge move, bringing in Saquon Barkley to help Hurts out. Coach Sirianni also made some big coaching changes, replacing Johnson and Patricia with new coordinators: Kellen Moore on offense and Vic Fangio on defense.
Oh, baby. Straight ahead, big hole for Barkley.
The offense got a massive boost with Barkley, and Hurts was more efficient than ever. He threw for only 2,900 yards, but his completion percentage and passer ratings hit new career highs, with his 3-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio also solid. Saquon rushed for over 2,000 yards, and the Eagle defense under Fangio became a force to be reckoned with.
That gets decked up.
In the playoffs, the Eagles shut down the Packers with a 22-10 win in the wild card round. Then, in the divisional, Saquon went wild, leading the Eagles to their second conference championship game in 3 years. In the NFC title game, the Eagles put on a show, blowing out their division rivals, the Washington Commanders, 55-23. Now it's set. Another Super Bowl matchup with the Chiefs. The night was unforgettable. Everyone thought the Chiefs were going to dominate the game. But then, an unexpected twist. Hurts put on a near-perfect performance, completing 17 of 21 passes for 221 yards, 2 touchdowns, and just 1 interception.
Intercepted by Cook.
But he added 72 rushing yards and another touchdown on the ground, setting a new Super Bowl record for rushing yards and earning his 4th career rushing touchdown in the big game, just 1 behind the legendary Emmitt Smith. The highlight of the night came when Hurts unleashed a 46-yard deep throw to Devonta Smith, extending the Eagles' lead to a commanding 34-0. It was a statement play that sealed the Eagles' emphatic 40-22 victory over the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 59. Hurts didn't just win the game, he dominated. And in doing so, he claimed the Super Bowl MVP title, proving to everyone that he's the real deal, a man of persistence, determination, and excellence. For Hurts, this victory meant everything. His first Super Bowl appearance in 57 ended in a heartbreaking loss, but he came back stronger. Like a true champion, Hurts kept pushing, adjusted his game, and emerged victorious. So, what do you think? Is Jalen Hurts now one of the top quarterbacks in the league? Don't forget to subscribe and like the video.